the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Dan Wootton. You can watch me live on GB News Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. And did you know that you can also watch and listen live on our website, gbnews.com. You'll always be up to date on the latest breaking news, as well as enjoying the best stories, opinions and shows. You can even join the debate under our live player as you're watching. So head straight to gbnews.com on TV, radio and online. GB News, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Good evening, I'm Rhiannon Jones from the GB Newsroom. The Prime Minister's facing calls from within his own party to further cut immigration. The New Conservatives have offered a series of proposals to drastically curb what they're calling the destabilising impact of mass migration. The group's made up of 25 right-wing Tory MPs. They're calling on Rishi Sunak to close temporary visa schemes for care workers in a bid to reduce figures by more than 80,000. They claim the proposed measures would reduce net migration by 400,000, therefore meeting the 2019 manifesto pledge. 2 people have been killed in a mass shooting in the US state of Maryland, which police have now confirmed involved more than one gunman. An 18-year-old woman and a 20-year-old man died in the attack in Baltimore. At least 14 victims under the age of 18 were shot. 9 remain in hospital. The attack happened at a Brooklyn Day event at the start of the 4th of July holiday weekend. The grandmother of a boy killed by police in Paris during a traffic stop is urging protesters to end the riots. The French government held crisis talks this evening to address the civil unrest after a 5th night of violence. Nahel Mazouk's grandmother says rioters are using his death as an excuse to cause havoc. The family has called for calm. The city's regional president says she's confident order will be restored.
What's happening is ultra-violence by small groups of people that are very well organized and very well trained, and they want to defy the Republic. And the Republic will not yield, and we will fight back.
The US President will meet King Charles and the Prime Minister when he visits the UK next week. Buckingham Palace has confirmed Joe Biden will visit Windsor Castle on the 10th of July. The White House says he's travelling to London to strengthen the close relationship between the nations. He'll then head to Lithuania for the NATO summit before going on to Finland. And rail passengers are facing yet more disruption over the next week as LEF members at 16 train companies in England will refuse to work overtime, which operators rely on to run their full timetable. The union says it's calling for fair pay, but the rail delivery group says ASLEF rejected its last offer of a £5,000 raise, which would bring the basic salary for drivers working a 4-day week to nearly £65,000. Services will be affected from tomorrow through to Saturday. TV online, DAB+ radio and on TuneIn, this is GB News. Now it's time for Headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, your nightly look through the next day's newspapers. Unless you're watching the 5 a.m. repeat, in which case it's today's newspapers. Anyway, I'm Leo Kearse and I'm joined by comedian Paul Cox and Professor of Virology and Massive Liar Lewis Schaefer. How are you both doing?
Yeah, great, thanks, Leo. Really good to be here once again with the doctor himself. How are you doing?
I'm the doctor.
You got any more big scientific discoveries, breakthroughs to share with us?
It's just you can't help but report on the news because the news is such anti-news and it needs the proper spin.
OK, and talking of the news, let's have a look at the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers. Kicking things off with the Daily Mail, they lead with "Put brakes on damaging 2030 petrol car ban." The Telegraph leads with "Banks must respect free speech." The Guardian has "Fears mount that the NHS will be forced to charge for care." The Metro has "Just not cricket." The Express has "Doctors raise spectre of NHS strikes until 2025." And the Daily Star has "China's cosmic moon nukes." And those were your front pages. And let's have a closer look at those front pages, starting with the Daily Mail, Paul.
Yeah, the Daily Mail. Put brakes on damaging 2030 petrol car ban. Now, I don't know who came up with 2030. I'm assuming it was Nostradamus, because it's about, you know, he gets about as many things accurate as this is going to be. It's madness. Nothing's going to be achieved by 2030. I can tell you what's going to be achieved by 2030. We will drive our economy into the ground trying to achieve something we can't achieve by 2030 because it just affects the working classes. And for some reason, whenever any government of any colour makes policy of this nature, particularly when it's about the environment, they seem to forget the whole economy runs on the working class.
Yeah.
And therefore, they need to be able to afford to operate.
It's not just the working classes. I mean, myself, I'm an upper middle class man, Paul. I don't know if you've noticed from the way I dress. But as a comedian, as a gigging comedian, which we all are, I mean, Lewis maybe not so much anymore, but we need to drive to places and also drive back, which you can't do in an electric car because you've got to charge it when you get there for about 8 hours until the battery's full. So we need petrol, we need diesel. I mean, I drive a petrol car. I mean, Lewis, are you do you think this is at all feasible, a 2030 ban on petrol cars?
Yeah, I think it is feasible, but it will destroy the country. We're in a state of war right now. It's like World War III, but it's the globalists versus Britain. They want to destroy this country, and they want to stop people from driving, and they want to put people in little boxes, and they want to take control of everything.
Does this kind of thing exist in the States, Lewis? Being our American correspondent.
Yes, but the difference is it's by state basis. So you got 50 states. So hopefully, maybe if 40 make this mistake,
Just hedge their bets.
Yeah, then the other 10 will say this didn't work out.
Well, you can see stuff like this happens in the sort of Democrat-led states, and then they fail, and then everybody moves to Texas or Florida that are run by Republicans, and then they'll probably elect their own leaders that make those states fail as well.
Right.
It seems to be what's happening across Western Europe.
The point with this stuff is, it's just damaging anything that could be good as a result of this policy. So instead of saying this is what we need to achieve, and we need to have a selection of ways to achieve it, and we're not going to put a date on it, but we're going to have a target that's sometime long in the future, but we're going to increment our way there.
Yeah.
We might achieve some of those things, but we're all just going, now this is ridiculous. You can't make this happen by 2030.
We don't want to achieve all those things. There isn't enough electric generation in the entire world to run these.
Well, and also, I mean, the battery capacity. I mean, to have a battery suddenly replace and just, I mean, it's almost 6 years away. It's 7 years away to replace everybody's petrol engine and petrol tank and all the petrol stations with charging points and lithium batteries. I mean, that's just impossible. Who's going to mine all this lithium? The children in Africa who are mining this stuff they're going to be bleeding at the nails from fulfilling this ridiculous promise.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, and the beginning of the day, is that there isn't enough of everything to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
Whoever they are, they want to take away our cars, they take away our mobility. We're in a state of war. This is a war against Britain.
Just for the sake of balance, I'd just like to say we're not actually at war with the state. We just grumble about them. But I mean, don't you think, Paul, the market?
They're at war with us.
Well, the market could just make these changes itself. I mean, if you look at Tesla, they're not a company that's beholden on. They weren't commissioned by the government to create electric cars. They went out and did it because they knew they could sell them. I mean, couldn't we just let the market, gradually ramp up the capacity and make money, and we can tax it, and then instead of choking the economy, it's actually going to boost the economy.
Well, that's exactly it, isn't it? With any product, what Elon at Tesla has done there is he'd already identified the technology before he built the car or had it engineered. The process, essentially, for what he was trying to achieve was completed by the time he went to market, and then he spoke about it. This is the complete opposite of that. That's saying we put a line in the sand. This is the date, and we're going to achieve it by then. It's totally unachievable. And how do we generate this electricity? I mean, what's generating the electricity?
If there's a way of electrifying virtue signalling, I think
I would be smashing it.
Britain could be self-sustaining. Anyway, moving on, we've got the Telegraph. What's on the front cover of the Telegraph?
Oh, the Daily Telegraph. This is actually good news, but it's not. Of course, with me, I'm going to spin it as bad news because everything seems like bad news to me. That banks must respect the free speech of customers, and the Treasury berates lenders that shut accounts after taking exception to clients' opinions.
And this comes after Nigel Farage had his accounts shut down. We don't know for sure that it's because of his political opinions and his activities, but it seems very likely.
But wouldn't you say, Leo, what you just said before, let the market handle it? Why is the government getting involved in this and telling them not to do it?
But this isn't the market handling. If banks just wanted to make money, because the thing is, all the people that have political opinions that are slightly to the right tend to be incredibly rich because they're sensible. It's sensible to have those opinions. Right. So they're going to have they're going to have the conservative mindset. Invests, is self-reliant, generates wealth. So they're the accounts that.
But you're saying it's just about money, Leo. But
it's not. I'm saying it's not about money.
No,
it's not about money at all. This is about the sort of woke mania that's gripped all of our corporations and all of our public institutions. And how can we possibly escape it? I mean, I know of people who have had accounts closed down and they've gone to 8 different banks, and all the banks will say, "Oh no, you're an untouchable. You're a pariah."
We can do it in the same way that Anheuser-Busch, the Bud Light people, are being basically killed in America. Yeah, and we could pick one of these banks, and Nigel Farage can lead the charge against whatever bank.
Coots, I think it was.
Coots?
Yeah.
Nobody knows that bank.
Well, it's a posh bank. It was the Queen's Bank. I had a job interview there once. Obviously, I didn't get it because of my Scottish accent. They wanted somebody with a posh accent because really, when they virtue signal, they're missing out the fact that they're incredibly classist.
Yeah.
But I mean, Paul,
maybe because they have to deal with people who are posh. They don't want.
They don't want somebody like me.
No.
Pretending that they're upper middle class. Anyway, Paul, what do you make of this?
Can you imagine? This is the stuff of conspiracy theories 2 or 3 years ago is all complete reality now. This is controlling the way people speak so that they can operate. A bit like you need food and water. I don't know if you believe in food and water, Lewis.
Yeah.
You do? You believe in food and water? Just checking. However, it's like taking food and water away from humans. They won't survive. For a human or a person to survive in society, they need a functioning bank account now. There's absolutely no way around it. I know we talk about central digital currency a lot, and this is exactly why I'm against it. Because you cannot take away people's lifeblood just because they disagree with you. Who's making those decisions? If it's some small girl with purple hair, then that's not on.
And it is somebody with purple hair. It is.
All 7 of them? No, this decision came from up high. It came from
I don't believe it did. I think it's a mania that creeps out across institutions, and it's the slow march through the institutions. We've somehow, despite vanquishing the Soviet Union in the 80s, we've somehow become a terrible version of the Soviet Union. It's ridiculous. And it's ridiculous for this to be happening just at the end of Pride Month, which is all about diversity and inclusion, but not when it comes to opinions, apparently. And also some of these people, I mean, there's a Reverend Richard Fothergill who had his account shut down. The excuse for Nigel Farage is that, well, he's a politically exposed person, which, obviously all people involved involved in politics are. I don't see Jess Phillips having her account shut down. It's just Nigel Farage for some reason. But Richard Fothergill, he's a reverend. He's nothing to do with politics. He just complained to his bank that they had, so many pride flags, which you can understand because you can't move. You know what I mean? It's almost like they have a guy at the entrance to the bank. They won't let you in unless you're wearing sparkly hot pants and doing a conga line with pride flags and stuff. And he had his account shut down just because he didn't subscribe to the ideology.
So you are happy having whatever you call it, the government, having the British state.
Well, the treasurer is the final lender. This is the thing. All these banks that will let you have an account, they have to have an account with the Treasury, so nobody gets. But I mean, maybe at the end of the day, having this final power is gonna save us.
Yeah, but what happens when the final power is in somebody else's hands? We're totally screwed.
Okay,
I'm totally pessimistic.
A sobering message. Anyway, we've got the Metro now. What have they got in the front cover, Paul?
It's just not cricket, Leo. It's just not cricket. So anyone who was watching the Ashes today will know there was a rather controversial moment part of the way through the afternoon's cricket in which Johnny Bairstow was stumped out. He was stumped out because the ball was still in play, and because the ball was still in play, he moved outside of his crease. The Australian wicket-keeper stumped the stumps with the balls. He was out. It's within the rules, but it's not within the spirit of the game.
Yeah, I've played cricket. You don't move away from your bit, whatever it's called, where you're out of your crease. The crease. Yeah, you don't move. You don't, or rut. I'd rather call it a rut. You don't leave your rut unless Lewis. I mean, what do you make of this? I know America took cricket and turned it into baseball, which is a rubbish version of cricket for girls.
What are we talking about?
Cricket.
Are we still on cricket?
Cricket, a superior game.
It isn't a superior game. It's the dullest game in the entire world.
It's played by gentlemen.
It's played by
not oafs.
Whatever you have that saying, you have to have a pithy sayings about cricket. I don't like. It's an animal game played by gentlemen. It's a gentleman's game played by animals. Something, whatever one of those two things is it. It's cricket. It's this game where basically the whole purpose of cricket is to watch the wives watching their husbands and boyfriends in the middle of a field while they go into the clubhouse and fool around with the other team.
OK, why aren't the other team on the pitch?
There you go.
I don't understand. Finally, can we do the Daily Star in a minute, Lewis?
In a minute. Is they're saying that China wants to go to the moon to get stuff to make weapons. That's the news. But of course they've always wanted to go to the moon, and maybe this is what they're putting out this promotion as a way of sort of getting the people of China to be more on their side because China's falling apart.
I can't believe you think the moon actually exists, Lewis.
Exactly.
I'm disappointed in your conspiracy theory.
I do, and I have lots of different beliefs about the moon that that I don't have time to go into. But basically, it's not a place where meteors hit it. All those craters. 95% of them are round. If you look at them, they're all
of course.
round.
I'd expect that.
No, it would be round because if they were hit by meteors, they might hit sideways lances, and there would be, more of a side thing. Velikovsky.
There you have it.
Paul.
Well, exactly. It's the moon's made of cheese, and I'm not scared of nukes made of cheese. Look.
Yeah, I saw that documentary by Wallace and Gromit as well. Anyway, that's it for part one. Join us after the break for glorious repercussions for Just Stop Oil protesters, people being mean to convicted rapist Isla Bryson, boo-hoo, and Orkney wants to leave the UK. What a world we're in. We'll see you in 2 minutes.
First and foremost, I'm a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News, the people's channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle.
Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Leo Kearse. I'm still here with Paul Cox and disgraced physician Lewis Schaefer, kicking things off with the Mail. And has Elon Musk killed Twitter, Paul?
Well, I don't think so, but let me just tell you the headline first of all, Leo, so we understand what we're talking about here. Twitter users are outraged and using the hashtag RIP Twitter after owner Elon Musk announced plans to limit how many posts users can see. I just want to give a little bit of context to this, because you can now pay a subscription to be a verified user, and that does give you extra features, such as, like, for me, I'm a paid Twitter user because I like to use 10-minute videos. I like to be able to share things about my podcast or share things about my stand-up.
All right, this isn't a Twitter marketing talk. Sounds like you're trying to sell us Herbalife.
But the context here is that if you do pay at the moment, you can see 6,000 daily tweets. I didn't realise this. If you're an unpaying customer at the moment, you can see something like 600 tweets a day. But new people joining Twitter unverified are being limited to 300 tweets a day.
Why are they doing this?
They're doing this so they can encourage people to pay to use Twitter. And this is where I diverge on this. Because
they're doing it because there's data scraping and system manipulation. So bots are dragging data from Twitter, and particularly for AI, big generative language, artificial intelligence models, they scrape Twitter and read all these tweets to sort of feed into the system so it knows, how it can pretend to be an angry housewife in Cheshire.
So you think that's the reason?
Well, that's what it says here. I'm just reading what it says.
Well, you can't believe it. It's in one of these newspapers that we cover. It's all untrue.
Show more respect to your bread and butter, Lewis.
This is everything we read is a lie, except for those.
I don't believe this is a lie.
I think what it is I think that might be a reason, one reason, but I think it's what's his name, Elon Musk. It's like there's an old story. How do you make a small fortune? You start with a large one. That's Elon Musk. He's in the process of destroying. In order for social media to work, it has to have a very broad base. And what he's doing is he's telling people, you got to pay to be in it.
Well, yeah, and also, I mean, the ramifications of this for things like readers, screen readers for disabled people, people who are blind or, have trouble accessing Twitter, it's bad for them. And it's also bad for, I just don't understand. I understand the sort of the bitterness and the fact that, these big AI models are making so much money from scraping this data from Twitter. But, if somebody else gets rich, it doesn't stop you getting rich. So I don't really see the problem.
I agree with you. At the end of the day, 600 tweets is nothing. It's like you know what a tweet is.
That's like 5 minutes of scrolling.
Yeah, it's like a sunflower seed. There's not enough in any tweet. You need to look at thousands of tweets in order to get your daily fix of tweets. It's like basically drinking like diet soda or something for the calories.
Well, I mean, hopefully, because Elon Musk in the past has been very good at listening to feedback. So hopefully he's going to put these changes, roll these changes back.
I think he will, because he's got a good sense of self.
OK, well, moving on, we've got The Sun now, with French riots leaving the country on fire like a truckload of British sheet, Lewis.
Yes, exactly. Well, this is a story. French rioters smashed flaming car into the mayor's home in an assassination attempt. As 719 are arrested on the 5th night of chaos. So these riots have been going on because a teenage kid got killed, and they tried to kill the mayor, possibly, as the mayor says. They tried to kill him and his family in the Paris suburb of Le Haye-les-Roses overnight. And France is on fire. What the basic problem is that the French love to riot. They every excuse to riot, and here there are black people rioting, so it would seem that they're racists by trying to stop their riot. If the white people can riot, why can't black people riot?
So you think they're just recreating the spirit of the Gilets jaunes?
They're becoming very French. Yes, I know.
So this is actually a sign of integration, rather than, because people have been saying, well, this shows that France has got all these problems with the banlieue, and they haven't integrated their society racially as well as we have in the UK. But actually, you're saying no. This is they learned this here. They learned this in France.
They learned it in France. It's the same way when I grumble about this country and I say that it's horrible. It just shows that I've integrated in this country, because that's what British people, English people love to do. They love to moan, and I never moaned in America. Everything was
Well, what do you make of this?
As they say, when in Paris, riot. Look, for years...
when in Paris, riot.
For years, I'll take a slightly different take on this. We have been told... You and I didn't vote for Brexit, right? But the narrative from the Remainers has always been that the EU and continental Europe has been the paradigm by which we must measure ourselves against, aspire to. That is what success looks like. And this last 8 to 12 months in France has shown there is very, very little cohesion. I mean, it's the Frances and the Germanys of the European continent that we're supposed to look towards, and they are an absolute mess. Macron, the great leader of the EU, has lost all credibility, he has lost all power, and if they don't want Le Pen to get in, they're going the very worst way about it.
Although there are no elections coming up soon, but it does sort of show that multiculturalism that's been touted for decades as this incredible panacea that can only be beneficial for societies is failing. Certainly, over the weekend, over the last 5 days in France, we've seen it failing with those tensions flaring up, and we've seen absolutely. I mean, the scale of these riots and the scale of the burnt buildings and burnt. In particular, public buildings, town halls, police stations, libraries. Now we're seeing this mayor's home in which his wife was quite severely injured.
There is some seriousness to this. There has been someone killed, I believe, and
more than one, I think. And the rioters are seizing weapons from. They're looting weapons from police stations.
This is very coordinated. This is a different subject matter to the strikes that were there earlier in the year. But make no mistake, these are all underneath. It's all the same people causing the problem. They want a revolution, and they're going about trying to achieve it. And do you know what? They're getting it at the moment. They're absolutely getting it, and people are dying.
Well, what do you mean? Who wants a revolution?
Well, I mean, my guess will be that there is an underclass of people. They are likely to be on the left, by the way. I don't believe this is a right-wing thing at all. I don't believe that, and I'm not saying that just because I'm sat here on GB News. It's because these people just. They want to control the narrative on anything, and as soon as something attacks that established narrative, or the narrative they're trying to establish, we end up with these riots. It's the only thing they've got. But
I mean, this isn't left wing.
No, it's not on the face.
White college kids doing it.
No, this is not
basically
this particular riot.
And what's interesting is it's the left wing areas that are being burnt and being vandalised, and the cars are being smashed up. So I mean, I don't know if it's going to change some people's opinions who previously were so fervent for for open borders. I mean, what's interesting is when people flee France to cross the Channel to the UK, they can now legitimately say, I'm fleeing a terrible war zone. But anyway, moving on, we've got the Metro now, and the police are getting more powers to deal with Just Stop Oil. I bet they don't actually use them though, Paul.
Well, that's to be seen, isn't it? Police forces have been given new powers today in a fresh crackdown on environmental activists. And I say good. I'm an advocate of free speech. I don't mind people striking. It drives me absolutely mad. I complain about it all the time. But they are entitled to do it. But take to Twitter, stand on Hyde Park Corner, write a column, come on GB News. But don't stand in the way of working class people getting to work or anyone getting to their medical appointments. I know these are easy things to say, but don't do that because they are not changing the hearts and minds. They don't need to change the hearts and minds of the purple-haired intelligentsia of North London that will go along like sheep with absolutely anything they say. They're trying to change people like me and my people and to get on board. And there is no way they are achieving that.
Although, I mean, you mentioned the sort of purple-haired intelligentsia. They might have changed some of their minds in the other direction, Lewis, because they protested against Pride.
I know, that was shocking. And what I found so interesting about this, what they're doing here is they're instituting rules which they basically used yesterday without being told, because when they Just Stop Oil got in front of the parade, the police came like super pronto.
Oh yeah, 17 minutes. When they protested in front of a Pride parade, it was 17 minutes. If you protest in front of working class people going to work, oh my, stay there all day. You know what I mean? These people don't need to earn any money and feed their children.
But I have to say, I shouldn't be allowed to speak on this thing because it was rumored that I myself once chained myself to a digger to stop trees from being cut down in Southwark.
Okay, well, moving on, we've got the Telegraph now, and in a perfect microcosm of modern society, a rapist is complaining about being misgendered, Lewis.
Yeah, this is a tragedy for this young man.
Well, how dare you misgender? This beautiful, fragrant, real woman with a penis who likes raping. Please.
Rapist Isla Bryson, which is a great name, really. That's one of the best things about being trans, is you can change your name.
Well, you can pick a nice name.
And you always complains of transphobic abuse in male prison. And this is the woman who had raped 2 young women, and originally she was in a female prison, and then they moved her to a male prison, and she was complaining that she wasn't being treated that well in prison. And at the end of the day, it's a prison, and bad things happen in prison. So and I've never been to prison, and I probably would complain if I was in prison. But it's like, how can you not be happy?
Yeah, I mean, complaining about transphobic abuse when you're a rapist, a multiple rapist, and you've been convicted and firstly sent to a female prison, which seems ridiculous. I mean, even Humza Yousaf, the Scottish First Minister, until the next elections, says, or until somebody within his own party deposes him, he's very unpopular, basically, is what I'm trying to say, says that the father of 3... That's the Isla Bryson, Adam Graham, whatever the rapist, is at it and isn't a real transgender person. Even though, according to the SNP's own gender ideology, completely meets all the criteria to be considered a real...
Self-ID. And the thing is maybe there should be a transgender prison for just transgender people. So you have to be forced. I think that...
Oh, am I going to have to pay for that as well? This is another tax.
No, it isn't
another tax rise.
I think it's worth it because...
Now we've got to have a prison for people who identify as cats.
Yes.
Oh, my God. Where does this end?
Because there'll be nothing more cruel than putting somebody in a prison with other crazy people like themselves. So they're forced to be with other people who are just completely wrong.
Well, staying in Scotland, we've got the Mail now, and Orkney is considering leaving the UK. What are we going to call this? Orksit, Paul?
No, the Orkney Islands are to consider plans to leave the UK and become a self-governing territory of Norway over claims they are being failed dreadfully by Westminster and Holyrood. Now, I am a unionist. I've always been a unionist. That's not going to change. But I don't blame Orkney here. And by the way, I think they're looking for a divorce from Holyrood more than they ever are Westminster. By an overwhelming sort of 70%, the people of Orkney voted no to Scottish independence.
Wow.
Back in 2014. They were not interested in this. They are probably, I can't verify this live on air, they are probably closer to Norway than they are Scotland culturally and maybe even geographically. I'm not too sure about that. However...
What about genetically?
Genetically, maybe. I'd imagine most people in Orkney see themselves akin to Scots.
Yeah.
But they don't see themselves akin to the politics of Scotland. And we talked about Isla Bryson then. The best thing Isla Bryson ever did, he was the straw that broke Sturgeon's back. And we are now starting to see some of that crumble, some of the lies start to be exposed. And I think, you know, all fair play to Orkney. They just want to be heard up there.
Yeah.
You could say that. I would say that. I think that just from what I can tell, and this, I mean, Orkney is not one of my expert subjects, but I think they're attention-seeking. They're playing Scotland against Norway. They just want more money.
Yeah, don't we all? Anyway, that's it for part 2, but coming up we'll find out once and for all how racist is the UK? Spoiler, not very, apparently. And can straight actors play gay actors? Spoiler, yes they can. And we've got disabled comedians. Spoiler, it's not anybody on this panel. Anyway, don't touch that dial. See you in 2 minutes.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard.
We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often there will be difficult stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Dan Wootton. You can watch me live on GB News Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. And did you know that you can also watch and listen live on our website, gbnews.com. You'll always be up to date on the latest breaking news, as well as enjoying the best stories, opinions and shows. You can even join the debate under our live player as you're watching. So head straight to gbnews.com on TV, radio and online. GB News, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Welcome back to Headliners. We're kicking things off with the Telegraph, and this is a rarity. A professor is telling us not to feel guilty about racism, Lewis.
Well, this is my subject. Oxford professor says Britain's racial guilt is based on ignorance. And as an Oxford professor myself...
I thought ignorance was more the part of your expertise there.
is this guy, his name is, what is his name? Nigel Biggar. And he was speaking at the Chalk Valley History Festival in Salisbury. He's the Regius Professor of
Just tell us what he said. I don't want his whole Wikipedia bio.
Basically to English people, the reason why English people feel that they've done bad things is because they don't know the true history of British people, and I agree with that. I think Britain is the greatest country in the world, mainly because it created America, and so he said basically that yes, the Britons were involved in slavery, but also the Britons were involved in ending slavery.
Well, we were the first nation to outlaw slavery, I believe, and also, we paid, obviously, to end it. We had to pay the people involved in the slave trade to not do it anymore. And the British Navy lost lots of men actually ending the slave trade, fighting to end the slave trade. So, I mean, Britain has paid in money and in blood to end slavery, so why are we carrying this cross around, feeling guilty about slavery, Paul?
I haven't met anyone with any real moral fibre who genuinely feels guilty. I do not feel guilty at all for what people I have no connection with did hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
And the only way we can move on is to draw a line in the sand. Now, that is going to be extremely difficult for some people to do, and I understand why. However, I'm not a practicing Christian, but they practice forgiveness. And the reason they practice forgiveness is because that is the route to a better life. In order for people to move on now, in order for the culture war, you imagine if you said, that's it, we're going to forget it all. The culture war balloon would just go...
But what would Dr. Shola Moss-Shogg do? What would she do for a living? Exactly. You're putting her out of work. In this economic climate, Paul, come on, all these race grifters need something to do.
Well, I'm going to say this, is that I agree with you. I agree. And it's like, I don't go up to an Egyptian and say, where's my reparations for building the pyramids and being slaves back in the Egyptian times?
You did a great job, Lewis.
I don't know. And something, we're not asking for reparations from the Barbary pirates of Algeria and Morocco, or whatever those places are over there, that came into this country and took hundreds of thousands of, maybe it's hundreds of thousands, of British people as slaves.
But luckily we turned out to be terrible slaves, just incredibly lazy. So that ended that trade. Anyway, we've got the Mirror now, and disabled comedian Rosie Jones has asked a question. Can you answer it, Paul?
Well, I think I can, actually. Comedian Rosie Jones has sparked outrage with her new Channel 4 documentary as the title contains an ableist slur. Now, it's asterisked out. The word they're talking about is retard. This is mental. I admire Rosie Jones a great deal, right? There's clearly no way she is using this word in an ableist way. She's not doing that at all. In fact, the people that she's talking to that are on our side are the ones that are offended, which is mind-blowing for me. What she's...
Well, you can't say mind-blowing either.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know who I'm offending there.
Does he have to apologise?
But she is using... This is her story, right? And for
but
once...
you use the word. Does he have to apologise?
Oh, yeah, do I have to apologise?
No,
if anybody was offended by Paul's use of that word, and bear in mind it's in the context, he's reporting on a newspaper article where it's used. Would like to apologise for anybody offended. Yeah, I did it. Apologise.
That's the first time I've had that. But look, I'm just reading what's the words, and this is Rosie's story. Okay, the story she's telling is these are words that have been used against her.
Yeah,
she's reclaiming the word.
Yes, he is not reclaiming the word because she is not the all word.
She's not at all.
She is another word which I can't say either. She's something else. It's like me saying.
I'm so glad you're not saying that word.
Yeah,
a woman.
I'm not saying the word. I'm not even going to give the letter. I'm on my best behavior, everybody. But you know what I mean. It's like me saying, well, I can say bad things about the Catholics because I'm a Jew. She has cerebral palsy.
She does?
She does. What does that have to do with mental retardation?
That's her point. Her point is it has absolutely nothing to do with it. And, people will see something like that and use that word cruelly and use it as a generic term to describe a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
And that's her point. And she's achieved absolutely everything she set out to achieve by putting that word in the title.
Doesn't everybody know now you're not supposed to use that word? And doesn't everybody know we should...
Well, yeah, no, it's interesting because, I mean, not in the not-too-distant past, it was sort of acceptable to say on stage. And I had a bit in my comedy where I used it, and it wasn't, you know, punching down or mocking disabled people or anything. But then somebody came up to me after the show and said, look, that word, you know, just so you know, it's heavy. I've got a disabled son. It's a word that he's called. And so I understood the sort of pain that it could cause and how it could alienate part of the audience. Yeah. So now I use the N-word instead. I don't, just in case anybody... I'd like to apologise for that as well.
Comedy. There should be a sign. There should be a thing in the background. Comedy, comedy.
No, I just don't use the word.
I'd like to apologise for Leo Kirk.
A lot of people would. Anyway, we've got The Guardian now with a row over whether straight actors should be able to play gay roles. Yeah. Seems fair. Philip Schofield played a straight man for decades, Lewis.
I know, really. Well, it's like Stanley Tucci. Stanley Tucci says straight actors should be free to play gay roles, and he was on Desert Island Discs, which is a news program, I guess, and he's played gay guys.
It's not a news program. I'd just like to apologise for anybody who...
Well, why can't they call it a news program? The Devil Wears Prada. He's been a gay guy, and this is so boring because we all know that because actors and.
It's acting.
It's acting, but I'm going to say this. If a straight actor cannot play a gay guy, then a gay guy cannot play a straight guy. Like, for example, cannot play a gay guy. Cannot play a gay guy. Louis Schaefer cannot play a gay guy.
I've got no idea what any of that meant. Anyway, moving on, we've got The Independent with shocking news that teenagers have been watching Andrew Tate videos. I hope they turned off before his evil message of faith, self-reliance and self-belief sank in, Paul.
Oh, my God, I love Louis Schaefer. TikTok is failing to block misogynistic videos of controversial influencer Andrew Tate that can be viewed by children as young as 13, experts say. Experts say? What type of expert is monitoring 13-year-old kids? Not the sort of expert we should be talking about on national TV. I mean, this is mad, right? Okay, I'm an advocate of free speech. That's one of my things. It's all of our things to some degree. And I've always believed that everything should be out there and everything should be able to be taken on its own merit. And then you make your decision. You can have your view on whether it's good, bad, indifferent, dangerous, whatever you like, but you shouldn't be stopping it.
Exactly, because when you stop things, I mean, because previously, you know, in the recent couple of decades, we've seen, you know, pickup artists and male role models banned from social media, and that presented a sort of perhaps a more, you know, nourishing, balanced view than, you know, some of Andrew Tate's views. But if you demonise everybody, then of course, you know, things like Andrew Tate people like Andrew Tate are going to pop up. If you tell young men, oh, you're terrible, you're disgusting, you're the worst. Yeah. They're not going to flock to you. They're going to go to Andrew Tate. He's a great guy, by the way.
Yeah, well, you met him. That's a total truth. The truth is that there's a couple of questions. One is, why do women hate Andrew Tate so much? And they totally do. Me, the fact that I haven't said anything bad about Andrew Tate in the last 5 minutes of this thing means that I must love Andrew Tate, and I'm a horrible person myself. Yeah. Okay? And the other question is, why do young men like him? And they haven't done any research into it. They have no idea why young men like him, and they have no idea why it hits a nerve with women. But more important than this was in The Independent, which is not a newspaper. It's an online thing only. There's no newspaper. Why is
Lewis, you're an online thing only.
Come on. Exactly, but I don't call myself a newspaper. Why is this included in why is this, you talk about a non-story. This is a non-newspaper.
All right, okay. You were going to rip that up. I saw you. Then you chickened out of it. Why did you chicken out?
Because I don't care about it that much. But other things, if it was about climate change or
all right, okay. Anyway, that's all for part 3. But coming up in the final section, we'll discuss whether James Bond is sexist, what the church is doing to entice young people in, sounds a bit worrying, and why women over 50 are drier than Lewis's all-meat breakfast. That's an actual plate of food. Not a euphemism. Anyway, see you in a couple of minutes.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Weeknights on GB News from 6 p.m. You'll always get drama.
Please stop, Michelle.
I know, yeah.
Please stop.
Should I just shut up?
Romance.
You like me, I like you. There you go.
There you are. Well, don't tell anybody.
Adventure.
Etc.
That's the whole point. But
And action.
Sergeant, read my superstar panel. They're already at it. They're fighting. It's going to be quite a show.
Only on GB News. Britain's watching.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News. The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, kicking things off in this section with the Express, and a Bond girl has slammed James Bond as a sexist pig. She's a bit late to the party on this one, Paul.
Absolutely. I mean, where has she been? The Spy Who Loved Me, Barbara Bach, slammed James Bond as a chauvinist pig. He was, and people loved it.
Yeah.
The whole appeal about James Bond was the fact that he was a strong man surrounded by beautiful women. There was sex. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like I'm describing your life, Lewis. But this is the whole point. Are we supposed to pretend that people don't like this stuff? Yeah. There are people who don't like that people like this stuff. And I get it, I understand it. But this is one of the most successful...
and it's escapism. It's like, Charles Bukowski reading, one of the greatest literary giants of all time. You read his stuff, and he's a terrible chauvinist sexist pig. He's like a low-rent James Bond. But it's glorious.
No, James Bukowski is a documentary. It's not literature.
Come on, it's hands-up.
It's like with James Bond... The men wanted to be him, and the women wanted to have sex with him, and I'm the exact opposite. But I think
it's 2023. If women want to be you, they
want to be me. They want to be me, and the men want to. Anyway, but this story, I don't know when this story was in the Express, but it says she said this. Barbara Bach, who's married to Ringo Starr, beautiful Jewish girl. I was like so in love with her when I was.
I thought Ringo Starr was a man.
No, not Ringo. And but this was speaking in People magazine in what year? 1983. This story is...
So this story is 30 years old.
It's
40 years old. Oh, my God.
40 years old. They make it seem like it's fresh.
Yeah.
Speaking... when you don't read that...
I did read it, actually. I'm pretending I didn't.
Oh, OK.
Lewis, this is a non-story. I think we can agree.
This was a was story.
Anyway, moving on. We've got the Times now with one of the reasons The Simpsons is rubbish now, Lewis.
I guess so. Homer Simpson's millennial makeover, from drunken oaf to caring dad. There's been 34 seasons of this show in America, and I guess it's been on here too. 723 episodes, which is one reason why American TV is so much better than British TV. Here you get 6 episodes of this, 12 episodes.
Yeah, but we stop when it gets rubbish. I mean, The Simpsons has been terrible for probably over a decade now.
But there probably were lots of good episodes, and people wanted to see it. It's like a marriage. Of course, sex is going to be amazing in the very first couple of weeks, but you still got to keep on doing it.
That's why you need dementia.
And so what they're saying is that Homer Simpson... I have to apologize, because I've never seen a full episode of The Simpsons.
I don't believe that. They're like 20 minutes long. But they're making Homer Simpson, he's sort of becoming this sort of a new dad, a woke dad. And I think this is one of the criticisms that The Simpsons has had. It used to be, George Bush famously said, America needs to be more like the Waltons and less like The Simpsons. And more recently, the comedian Harry Kondabolu said that the character Apu was racist and was the reason he got bullied at school. Actually, the real reason he got bullied at school is because he was soft. If he should have taken steroids, done some Andrew Tate MMA stuff, then he wouldn't have got bullied.
Right. If you see racism everywhere, the chances are you are a racist. Exactly. I'll tell you what, you talk about British TV, nothing wrong with it, mate. Look, I received last week just a gift for us both. One for you, Lewis.
Is this for me?
This one for me, and it says Cox and Schaefer, a comedy marriage made in Paddington. Now, I don't know who sent this.
Yeah.
On their Twitter bio, it just said they were called Popper. Yeah. So thank you, Popper, whoever you are.
That is amazing. It says Lewis Schaefer, which is my Twitter address.
Well.
And it spells my name wrong, Schaefer, as it's Schaefer. But that's all right. That's amazing. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, I look forward to you both being discovered in that person's basement. Anyway, moving on with the Times, and it's got a problem that you could solve, Lewis.
Yeah. No, did we do this already? Oh, sorry.
We've skipped a story. They do that sometimes to confuse us.
Which one?
There was on his 100th episode of Headline.
It's the one about women over 50.
Women over 50. Why does sex fall off a cliff for British women over 50? Listen, I'm doing the best I can. I mean, it's just so much I can. Because the men have lost interest, really. When we get old, we're not that interested. And also, it's also because older women tend to be... The problem, basically, is women want to have sex with older men their own age and older. And men are tired.
What, even like Joan Collins wants to have sex with older men?
Not James Bond, but Barbara Bach, when she's going out in the field, she doesn't want to have sex with a young James Bond. She wants the older James Bond. And unfortunately, as we get older, there's fewer of us are living. I'm doing amazingly well, but the rest of them are dead. What do you want?
Are you having a moment? Are you having a moment? Such a great story for you to have like a little lapse of concentration.
You're asking like a full-on misogynist about women. Why? You should never ask me these questions. These are not good questions. Ask Paul. Paul's...
Well, I can't, because we've got to finish the show. Anyway, the show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Monday's front pages. The Daily Mail leads with, "Put brakes on damaging 2030 petrol car ban." The Telegraph has, "Banks must respect free speech." The Guardian leads with, "Fears mount that the NHS will be forced to charge for care." The Metro has, "Just not cricket." The Express has, "Doctors raise spectre of NHS strikes until 2025. And the Daily Star has, "China's cosmic moon nukes." And those were your front pages. And that's all we have time for. Thank you to my guests, Paul Cox and Lewis Schaefer with their mugs. We're back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Simon Nevins, Nick Dixon and myself. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Bye.
First and foremost, I'm a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The people's channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right,